So my first topic, and Tom's doing 2 topics this week, and I'm doing just one for our 3 topics this week. So my topic is it's not a downer topic, because I kind of want to get into more of interesting scenarios that could be played out. But my topic is, do you think that there will eventually be a World War III? How would it happen? And like, who would play a part in it? Just pretty much, do you think it could happen? And the details that go along with it. Because I was thinking, I saw the Kind of Funny guys. I've mentioned them before on our show. They do the same type of format that we do, and they had one of these as a random topics. And it was kind of interesting that they got into the conversation of, what do you think would be the cause of it? Like, because my thing is that the most existential threat that is threatening our, I don't want to say existence, threatening, or that could be the future of warfare if it came to that, would be cyber warfare. And just pretty much everything being done through hackers' capabilities, whether it's hacking military equipment or hacking servers or hacking like infrastructure within the United States.
Data.
Or yeah, exactly. Hacking and stealing data within the United States or any other country for that matter. That I think is going to be the biggest proponent of future warfare, is definitely cyber warfare, to the point where, I mean, if you played any of the Call of Duties, we could be fighting with just drones sooner or later. And I have a huge proponent of, we should just have 40 people from each country dropped into PUBG and have them battle out and then settle wars that way. But I think another reason why we could end up seeing a World War III, if by some like technological advancement doesn't happen, is that the biggest things that it could cause it would be the fight for natural resources. And you have other countries that may not have access to water. You look at us in Michigan, we're surrounded by fresh water in the Great Lakes. So we could have an internal civil war to the point where we're building barricades around Lake Michigan and Lake Superior to protect it from, because there was talks, I remember learning about it in high school, how when California was going through that drought, how people were trying to propose legislation to siphon water from the Great Lakes. And obviously Michigan was not about it. But you could argue that if you were to have come a World War III, that it would be about natural resources and being able to access them for your country. So what do you think?
Well, I'm going to go a different direction, because when you proposed that question, I thought that the way it was going to be done was through cyber warfare, and I thought the thing that would cause it would be water.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I would say I think it's almost foolish to think that it couldn't happen, because no one ever thinks it's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. No one thought World War I is going to happen from the get-go. Back in the 1200s, were people saying, "Oh, World War I"? No, probably not.
Yeah.
And then after World War I, I'm sure there's a lot of people that didn't think World War II.
There's no way we're gonna have a second.
Yeah. But and even in the early 1900s, there's probably people like, we're not having 2 world wars, right?
Yeah.
So
Cold War? What's a Cold War?
So I think it's definitely possible, and I mean, it's kind of hard for me to think of any other thing other than natural resources, because I think territory battles are pretty much done.
Yeah, because there's just no way where you can sustain that.
But, well, I say that, and I just mean, like, people just wanting to conquer shit. Mm-hmm. It's you want to conquer it for resources.
Yeah.
I could see someone blowing shit up and saying, yeah, you have a lot of coal or whatever it is. We're just going to go ahead and take this now.
Yeah.
If things got dicey. I could see that happening. But just someone, like Alexander the Great conquering, all of Asia and Europe, I don't see that playing out.
Yeah.
And there's just real no point either.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to be honest, I just don't think you can ignore nuclear warfare at all.
Yeah.
Ever. And cyber warfare has an interesting dynamic, because like you said, you could hack in and start blowing up people's nukes, but
because with how much we're dependent on technology, I mean, shit, you could find a way to hack in, especially how we progress towards automated cars, find a way to hack in. And you want to talk about, I mean, and I'm not saying this in a way that it would be exciting or awesome, but you want to talk about like a terrorist attack where someone would hack into a large amount of cars, like maybe on the highway, and just have them go nuts.
Well, and there's actually a book about this kid, I think it's called Future Crimes, and this kid in India hacked into trains and basically had the those 3-way bridges or whatever where they siphon. He basically would just send trains just because he could.
Good Lord.
And
because anything that's connected to the internet, whether it's very complex or very simple, anything that's connected to the internet or utilizes the network, can be hacked into.
Yeah. Well, and Jeep got in a lot of trouble the other 2.5 years ago because
they shut it down immediately.
Well, because the car basically they made the Grand Cherokee, had a new computer in it. Someone hacked into it, and these two guys did it on purpose just to see if it was possible because they figured it out. And you should watch the video because it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
This guy's going down the highway, and his friend is in his house on his computer, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna turn the fans on." All the fans kick on.
Yeah.
Turns on the heat, seat warmers, everything, kills the engine immediately.
So guys, I'm on the highway. If you guys want to, give me control back.
You guys need to turn this on right now. This is really scary.
Yeah.
They controlled the entire thing. So, yeah, I definitely think that cyber warfare would have a huge implication. But keep in mind that we have enough nukes to blow up the entire Earth multiple times.
Yeah.
So you can't avoid that kind of threat. And I just think that at some point when you have countries that just have nothing left to lose, they'll Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And with countries like North Korea, obviously, would be the primary.
I mean, that's the biggest one.
But
yeah.
Which, obviously, they don't have... if we wanted to go in and just completely wipe it off the map, we could. That's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's they could just throw a Hail Mary, and maybe they do have nukes, and they just say, fuck it. We're just going for broke.
Because that's my thing is that if they were able to, because my initial thought with any World War III is I don't think someone is stupid enough, even if Kim Jong-un's level. I don't think someone is stupid enough to the point where they would launch something, because we've talked about how we had the military capabilities that we have before. Not only do we have enough nukes to blow the world up 2 times over or 20 times over, but I guarantee... they tested one successfully a few months ago, and that's of the technology that we know of. But I guarantee that we have some sort of capable technology that can shoot nukes down either from space or from a coastal line or something from on a naval ship in the ocean or something that's between us and North Korea. But I think if you were going to have someone in power like this that has nuclear capabilities like North Korea does, I think in terms of my argument when it comes to them not making that push and making that final decision to launch the nukes is because it's a suicide mission. Because you launch a nuke, especially when you're North Korea, where there's pretty much no countries on your side to begin with, and you launch a nuke, make that decisive of a decision, and every country's like, bro, what are you doing?
We bring you down.
Yeah, everyone's against you. There's not one country that's going to back you nuking any other country, let alone nuking the United States of America.
Yeah.
So it just comes to the point where, and one of my favorite quotes is actually, it's not from Call of Duty, but back when Call of Duty, when you would die in the campaign, they would flash those quotes up.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes was, I think it was maybe Albert Einstein. He said, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. And I love that quote because if it were to ever happen, like we said before, it's naive to think that nuclear weapons wouldn't be involved somehow.
And the context behind that is just it's going to bring us back to the fucking Stone Ages.
Yeah.
But
if there's anybody left.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I agree with that. And to be honest, I think the biggest factor, other than maybe something like water, would be in the Middle East if the entire world stops being dependent on oil.
That's a good point.
If alternative energies go through the roof, and all of a sudden the one commodity that a lot of these princes in Saudi Arabia or I don't know Afghanistan's exports now for oil, but the Middle East, obviously the one hot commodity is oil.
Royal families, have these ridiculous palaces, 99% because of oil.
Right. So if you take all that away, A, they don't have any money, B, they don't have any more power. You want to talk about instability in the Middle East? Wait till they have nothing.
Yeah, what are they going to do to gain that power back?
Exactly. And not only that, but what are the people going to do in response to, I made $5 a year and you didn't help me out, and guess what? Now you have nothing. Come here.
Yeah, you're on the sidewalk now with me.
I'll show you what's up.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing with North Korea too, because you have this massive population that if maybe Kim Jong-un were to make, because God knows in North Korea, a lot of those people are so brainwashed to the point where they would probably support him doing that.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's how they're raised and born.
Right.
But you could see a sense where maybe Kim Jong-un launches this, and it's to the point where they also think it's a suicide mission. So it's like he launches that, and they're like, whoa, we don't want anything to do with it because we don't want to be on the wrong side of this battle when when what's coming to you eventually comes.
Right.
But in retrospect to that, I also think that you want to talk about World War III just in general. One of the ways that we can avoid World War III is that generate and innovate technology to the point where you can solve these natural resource problems to the point where there was development. I remember in the UK, I read it, I think it was 3 or 4 months ago, where they were starting to develop technology where it would convert saltwater to freshwater. And the technology exists.
Yeah, it's just really expensive.
Outrageously expensive. So if you're able to make that more mainstream, that's solving the world crisis, the biggest world crisis that this planet will ever see.
Right.
Because obviously it's what's the exact, is it like 75% water the earth is? Like 65% or something like that. Regardless, if you were able to convert saltwater to freshwater, it would solve so many problems. And you could argue, this is my diplomacy coming out and my love for cooperation, but if you could come out and say, if we were able to push and innovate technology enough to solve these crises and gain technology that can then help, maybe when you talk about climate change, maybe develop a technology where it sucks CO2 out of the air, and then technology, like I said, converts saltwater to freshwater, and then maybe something that has to do with growing food and crops to the point where, even solar panels, because I remember doing a research paper on alternative energies, and I read about a project that was proposed and shut down because it was eventually too expensive for the people that were trying to do it. What their idea was is to but even 4% of the Sahara Desert, if they were to cover 4% of the Sahara Desert with solar panels, that it could power the entire world. So it's like if you were able to put finances rather towards like showing that you have the biggest dick, or when we talk about nuclear warfare, instead of putting finances towards building more nuclear missiles, because one is enough pretty much. So if you were to put your finances towards other goals, then you could avoid World War III, and this topic of discussion wouldn't even be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people are people.
Yeah. And money is money.
Yeah.
Because that's, in the end, that's literally all that matters.
Yep.
So what do you think? Anything others? Any other causes?
I don't know. It's just too tough to say. Yeah. I think holding information ransom, if you can get it, is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
But any sort of cyber attack can range from the smallest of things to the biggest of things. So I would say if World War III happens, it's gonna be a doozy.
Yeah. Needless to say.
Yeah, but it'll be fought over resources before. Probably, I think it would be fought at the very core over resources, which would then in turn, like, basically unstabilize a country, and then other countries would kind of band together and say, well, we're all fucked, let's just join forces.
Yeah.
And then everything goes to hell.
And it's interesting you bring up the topic of, like, because you look at how World War I and World War II were caused and what were the main actors in terms of getting more countries to become involved, because you look at World War II in particular, we weren't involved until Japan attacked us, and then Japan attacked us, and then Germany declared war on us, so then everybody's involved and against each other. But it was because, obviously Hitler was trying to instill his Third Reich and trying to take over Europe pretty much, and eventually the world, and then Japan and Italy sided with them, and then we were obviously on the with the UK and the Allies. So you look at that type of conflict, and especially World War I starting with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, and it's just the causes of those world wars, you just don't really see that happening today.
Yeah.
And you go back to even the most recent Cold War between us and the Soviet Union, how the Cold War was all about, pretty much, and to put it in layman's terms, like a big dick contest, because the Soviet Russia wanted to develop nuclear weapons and develop more advanced military technology, and we wanted to do the same. And then Ronald Reagan wanted to rid the entire world of communism, and that's what Soviet Russia was all about. And you look at instances like that, aside from North Korea being so batshit crazy and so completely out of the realm, because we had a friend go to North Korea, and he would just talk about and show us pictures of like the propaganda and stuff around North Korea. And it's just so weird that a singular country would be so out of left field in terms of all the other countries in the world. Because they have second? I think it was as much as the second world's most powerful military, or like they're
first.
Well,
they're the largest.
Well, aside from us.
No, they have a bigger because every male technically has to be in the military.
Oh, okay.
So they're technically the largest.
I think I was reading how much money goes into their it was percentage of GDP goes into the military. So they're the second most in terms of only second to us in terms of how much their GDP they put towards the military. And what was I going with that? What was I talking about before?
North Korea.
Yeah.
And how crazy it is that that place exists.
Oh, I think it was, wow. I just can't believe I completely blanked. I think it had something to do with the fact that they are so out of control and so different than all the other countries, and yet they invest this. That's where I was going with it. They're so much different than all the other countries, and yet they invest so much in their military. So that combo is definitely not a good thing.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't think that Kim Jong-un has the guts to make the final decision to launch that. Anyone can talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put in your textbooks that I remember, I think John Oliver did a skit on Kim Jong-un in North Korea, how they would have, down to the littlest thing in textbooks where you'd have math problems like, okay, you suffocate 3 Americans and shoot 4 Americans. How many Americans are left? Like stuff to that shit where it's come from the beginning, or you're taught that from the beginning. Even though you instill that in that mentality and you talk about all that stuff about attacking the United States and destroying the United States, it's a lot different to talk about it to actually do it. Because you come from our perspective too, where Trump will call him the little rocket man and talk about all this stuff like he's going to wipe them off the face of the earth and destroy them and not, like, they don't have a leg to stand on, blah, blah, blah. And then Kim Jong-un will come back and say the same thing, but I just don't think that they'd actually do it. And that comes back to my first point in terms of World War III in general, is that, do I think it could happen? Absolutely. I'm naive. I would be naive to think that it couldn't happen. But in terms of someone actually making the final pull, because World War III will not ever be, with how nuclear weapons are so mainstream, to the point where if a country's allowed nuclear capabilities, then they're going to have nuclear capabilities. So the next World War would involve nukes, but I just don't think that anybody would have.
I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime.
Especially because if you're even on an allied side, let's say just random, like maybe France or something, use nuclear weapons on someone, or like you look at, that's a different situation. But if my main point was, if you have an allied country that uses it, maybe a bunch of those countries say it's like, whoa, we're not on board with that shit.
Yeah,
they might back away. But I just think that everybody has the capabilities and everybody likes to show off how big their nuclear dick is, but actually using it and physically launching that missile is way different.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that was kind of an interesting topic. If you want to let us know how you think World War III would start, or how it would go down, or who would be the general actors in World War III, or if you just want to talk about stuff. Let us know in the comment section below, or as always, go to patreon.com/TJENT, donate $1, $2, $5, or $10, post on that wall, and we'll get yourself on the show, and we'll talk about why you think, or how you think World War III will happen.
Deal.
There you go.